All right, we are live. It always takes a second for the live, but for the replay, you'll be able to see us. I see some people already here. Hello, Cindy and Alicia. Hello, hello. We'll give it a second because sometimes it takes a second when to post on YouTube. But we're here for our Christmas cozy. I'm so excited.
Yay, me too. Me too. Feeling very festive. Even though I have my tree up already, I feel like it's kind of been a little bit of a struggle actually getting into the Christmas spirit. And I feel like this book helped kind of launch really feeling Christmassy. So now I'm like, yes, bring it on. I bake cookies. I've been putting on Christmas movies, so I'm ready.
Yay, fun. Okay, so we're definitely live. So hello, everyone. We are here for the Teacups and Murder Cozy Mystery Book Club. It's our seasonal book club, and of course, we had to pick a Christmas one. We're going to be reading Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off by Darci Hannah. So we're going to be talking about that today, and we'll just be talking about cozies and Christmas. So it's okay if you haven't read the book, you can still join in. We'll start with introducing ourselves. You can start, Dad.
Okay, well, hello. My name's Ulysses. I'm Samantha's dad, and this is my introduction into murder cozy mysteries.
It's your first one? Wow.
My first one. I've never read one before, so I really enjoyed the book. I'm with you. I think it livened up the Christmas spirit, and I give it a 4. Obviously, I don't have nothing to compare to, but I do love the book. I love the way it went through, and it was actually a really good read.
Yay.
Yay.
Go ahead, Spencer.
Okay, yes. Hi, I'm Spencer, also known as Intentionally Bookish, the other host of this Cozy Mystery Book Club. I really love this one. We were talking like right before we went live, and this book really helped kind of push me into the Christmassy kind of vibe. So I gave it a 4.5. Like, I think it's a 4, but then I added on the 0.5 because it helped me feel the Christmas spirit. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Bree.
Oh gosh, you guys, I haven't done this in a long time.
I know, super casual, no pressure whatsoever.
Well, I'm Bree, and like Spencer, I think I'd give it like a 4.5. Like, it's a strong 4, but you know what? Like, the 0.5 comes from the fact that like this book and its Christmas aesthetic is so real. Like,
top notch. Yeah.
Definitely, if you're just struggling, I think right now to get in the spirits, it definitely will take you there. So yeah, I loved it. What a good pick, you two.
Yay!
It's always nerve-wracking when picking a book for book club because we don't read it beforehand. We read it with you guys. So it's like we never know if it's going to be good. And I literally finished this one. Dad, what time was it? Like 9 o'clock last night?
Yeah, it was late last night.
Yeah.
Very on brand for you.
Yes. As always. So I really enjoyed it. I also gave it a 4 stars. I think we're all having the same rating here. I thought it was a good Christmas book. Even though it wasn't the first book in the series, I feel like I could understand it really well. I did a mixture of like physically reading it because I got this at Barnes & Noble. But then towards the end, I needed that 3 times speed to get me through.
It was all gibberish when I came to check on her. I was like, what are you doing?
I can understand.
The woman possessed, It's funny that you mentioned, I mean, obviously I know that you said that you read the audiobook at the end just to kind of push you through, but I started off reading the audiobook or listening to the audiobook, and I got maybe half a chapter in, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read this because if you guys have been around the last few ones, if the audiobook doesn't hit me the right way, it will be such a bad reading experience. And I did not want to set myself up for that whatsoever. So I'm like, let me close this out. And I ended up reading it physically as in my ebook. And I'm so glad that I did. I feel like it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I really liked it so much because I was able to like put the voices in my head and everything.
I love this, Samantha. You found it at Barnes & Noble. I feel like my Barnes & Noble's cozy mystery section gets smaller and smaller every time.
Really? They have a huge section. Yeah, they do. Our romance section is pretty small, to be honest. It's Colleen Hoover and Colleen Hoover. But the cozy mystery section is actually really good.
That's awesome.
and I wasn't looking for it. I had gone to get another book, like a fantasy romance book, and I saw it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get the physical one," because originally I was gonna read it on Kindle Unlimited.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. It's funny that you said so. I think it's safe to say none of us read the first book. This is the second book in the series, and with most cozies, you can just kind of jump in wherever. Interestingly enough, though, even though Samantha, you felt like you could just kind of pick it up, I feel like I would have benefited from reading the first book this time around, only because I feel like the established relationships, that groundwork was laid in the first book. And like perfect example, well, two examples actually. So like our main character and her boyfriend clearly get together in the first book. That's fine. But the relationship between her boyfriend and the best friend, I feel was really like kind of they poke at each other. And I would have loved to have seen the first book, how they got to that place. Like obviously that didn't really make a difference with the plot line or anything, but I think it just would have been more well-rounded if I would have seen like, okay, well, why is she jabbing at him so much? Like it's playful, but she does kind of like make fun of him some. And I wonder if something that happened in the first book kind of made their relationship start off that way.
Yeah. So we always jump right into it. Real quick, the synopsis.
Sorry.
This is the second book in the series. What is this called? Beacon Bake Shop Mystery Series. So she owns like a small bakery, and they're having this Christmas bake-off, cookie-like bake-off. There's, someone in the town who's really gung-ho about Christmas, and they do this bake-off to bring more attraction to their small town. And a celebrity judge comes to judge their cookies, and he is found dead. With her cookies sprinkled all around him. So she has to like defend her name and figure out what's going on, and just Christmas shenanigans. One thing I will say about the actual death, we're not going to say who the murderer is until like a little bit closer. But it took forever. Like normally I'm so used to the person dying like in the beginning and then like you finding out what happened, but it was like chapter 12 and he still hadn't died yet.
Which is funny because I came in and I was excited to like catch up and go with her. So I haven't started the book yet, and I was like, I'm in chapter 19. Like, what's happening? And that's when the murder happens around 17, 18, 19 on the chapter. And she was like, what? It always happens in the beginning. I was like, oh,
that's true. That's very true. And interestingly enough, like the way that they introduced again, maybe it's because I didn't read the first book, but the way that they introduced some of the characters and it took so long, I actually thought that the woman who owned the Christmas store was going to be murdered, only because usually in the books, it's the character that people don't like or like the newcomer that ends up being murdered. And because he wasn't introduced yet, and we've clearly got this woman who nobody really likes that much, I'm like, oh, it's her. Her days are numbered. I was clearly
her days are numbered.
And then with it being like her cookies around him, because I feel like in cozies, usually our sleuth is the suspect in the first or the second book in the series.
Yeah.
Right.
But because it took so long, I was like, I don't know where this was going. So I had that feeling, Spencer, of like, maybe I should have read the first book, because she mentioned that she was the suspect in the last murder. And I was like, oh.
Right. So she couldn't be this one yet again. Or maybe she could. Again. No, you're absolutely right. But admittedly, I was relieved that it wasn't her again, only because as much as I love the first cozies and just being introduced to the world, it makes me so nervous that the main character has to defend themselves. Like, I mean, 9 out of 10 times that's what they have to do. So I was hoping we would skip that in this one, but it got a little rocky, like you said, Brie, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, but yeah, he was mad at me because he's like, why didn't you tell me this was the second in the book? I was like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal.
Right. He's referencing the book. He's like, I was like, they don't want me investigating another murder. And I'm like, what other murder?
Right.
Did I miss something? Or
yeah.
You did.
You listened to the audiobook and did you listen to Libby or Hoopla?
Hoopla.
So I guess something happened with Hoopla where it like took him back to the beginning. So he was trying to find his spot of where he was. And you accidentally started the first book.
So my app, I updated my phone with the new update, and then I went into Hoopla and the book was nowhere to be found. And I was like, okay, well, I know it's Beacon Bakery or Christmas Baking. I looked it up and it popped up and I saw the black lab. I was like, okay, this is it. So I put it on and I was like, I remember I was on chapter 19, so I fast forward to the chapter, and I started it, and I start my drive, and I'm going, and they're like, they're looking at all the blood inside the bake shop, and I'm like, what blood? It was there. What's going on? Wait, and I'm looking at I'm driving, so I'm like, okay, I gotta stop it because I don't know what's going on. Got home, and I was like, wait, this is the first book and then the second. So I'm like, now I want to go back because like there's a lot of blood in the big.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Summer pick we had by, was it Bree Baker?
Yeah.
That was the second book in the series, and I didn't even notice that it was the second book in the series.
No, and that's why I thought this one was interesting because again, most times you don't notice. Like, yes, they will casually reference like, oh, we've been in this situation before, but for the most part, it's like, okay, that's a thing of the past. Let's just focus on now. But yeah, for some reason, this one I felt was a little bit different. Another thing, and I guess again it comes down to the relationships. One of the things that I loved about this book, which is kind of why I wanted to read the first book, was that even though she was the amateur sleuth, she wasn't actually like the main one. Like I felt like it was a group event, which is kind of refreshing to see because it wasn't just focused on like one single nosy person. We had like her boyfriend who was down with it, like, which was great because usually they're like, oh, don't investigate, stay safe. And then you've got her best friend, then you've got like her mom and her dad, like everybody's getting involved. And I'm like, okay, real wacky shenanigans.
I love it. Have y'all read the Skeleton in the Family series?
No, I heard that was amazing.
So it's like our sleuth, she's like an adjunct professor, and then literally a talking skeleton. And I love that it's never just her by herself, because I'm the same way. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, okay, you're just a little too nosy by yourself. So having like a community that's helping out, just
Well, I was a little confused though, because they kept mentioning the ghost.
Yes.
The ghost involved, like coming around. Like, they smelled it, like he's gonna come out and show himself. And
so is her bakery in the lighthouse? Her bakery's on the
bottom floor, of the lighthouse.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I wanted more of the ghosts.
I did too. Okay, so let's talk about that. Brings me to my next point because, and again, I feel like I'm missing that from the first book because it seems like the ghost played more of a part in the first book, and then the second time he was just not even really making himself known. It's like maybe she thought she was smelling something, maybe she wasn't. I don't feel I feel like it was a bunch of red herrings. But then we also had the magical element. Let's talk about this because you guys thought it was Mrs. Claus too, right? Because like as soon as she walked onto the page, I'm like, here we go.
As soon as we met her, we're all
here to save the day of Christmas. It was amazing. I was like, it's Mrs. Claus.
Yes, me too. I loved that. And like the only thing, if I had to give one critique, is that she came in and it was definitely obvious with the magicalness because she was whipping up all these cookies. But like I was hoping, it was a little weird to me, like when they went to visit her friend's house where she was staying, like I was hoping she would do more like subtle magical stuff. Don't ask me what kind of stuff because I don't know. But other than like making cookies, which is great, and then leaving at the end, there wasn't really much magic in the middle.
Her cabin was like nowhere to be found, and then like they went back toward the end of the road and couldn't find, and they came back and magically now there's a sign. So I felt a little magic there, but it wasn't more like you said inside the house of her of having magic. It makes sense.
Yeah. I the assistant baker for sure. To me, it felt like, I don't know if you ever watched like Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas when like they wish like, I wish this every day. That's what it felt like, a Christmas wish. Like, I wish I had an assistant baker, and then boom, she's there. So that's what I thought they were leaning more into, like the Christmas magic. Too subtle. I wish there was definitely more. But somebody says there's more ghost in book one. So
okay, I figured there was more in order for her not to be freaked out. But you bring up a good point, Sam. Like it was subtle, and the whole when you put it that way, like the magic of Christmas totally makes sense because remember at the end of the book, the woman who owned the Christmas shop, her wish was to have her family or her kids spend Christmas with her, and then they came, and which I thought was that like really got me because I'm like, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So the reason I didn't give it like a full 5 stars is because I felt like I loved it. I love the vibes. I love the plot. I love the writing style. But the one thing that got to me, besides the narrator, because I do agree with you, Spencer, I don't think the narrator was a good one. If I had read it sooner, I would have just continued reading it physically, because the British accent was horrific. Like, it was the worst British accent I've ever heard.
It skipped. Like her British accent turned on and off in the sentence. So I'm like, is it the same character?
Yeah.
Because I read that in audiobooks, it was like the British accent was heavy and then it was lightened and then heavy again. And it's like she picked and chose the words. She sounded British.
Yeah, so but that's no fault to the book. I'm not giving it rating because of that. Right. But I felt like it was very repetitive. Like, Dad, you pointed something out when you first read it about the New York thing.
So yeah, so I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in New York City, and we have our own little quirks and stuff from New York. And the fact that any person that's from New York, within 10 seconds of meeting them, you're gonna find out they're from New York. It's a thing. I don't know why. It just happens.
Yeah.
And the fact that she kept mentioning my New York attitudes coming out, I'm like, you don't, like, every time, like, we know you're from New York, we get it. You don't have to keep mentioning it. Thank you.
Right.
So they be like,
and like, he never is like my New Yorkness. I'm just like, your Brooklyn's coming out.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because I was hoping for that clapback, essentially. Like, she kept, in the beginning, it's fine because it's like, oh, I don't want my New York to come out, because she would just, put that lady in her place. But after the third time of saying it, I'm like, I'm going to need to see this, because you're all talk in this small town. And if you really are from New York.
New York come out of her and be like, first of all,
they are always the bigger person, and it drives me nuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is one of my pet peeves.
You would have no issue. I would have came out in the first game.
Right. I totally agree with you. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
When he got kicked in that, they kicked the boxes on her in the basement or whatever, and I'm like, okay, it's time for you
now to come out.
Lose out.
Clap back down.
Yeah, totally.
Kept her poise. I was like, you lost your New Yorker if you kept your poise that way.
Yeah, like, you haven't even been there that long for you to be able to keep it under wraps. So I completely agree with you. One of the things that kind of irked me, if I'm pointing out their criticisms, and this isn't the first book that I've seen this in, it's been in a lot of mostly cozies, just because more often than not, cozies, if there is a romantic element, it's pretty light. I didn't mind the romance in this one, but what bothered me was the fact that they kept trying to get time alone and kept being interrupted for a kiss. It takes 2 seconds to show affection. And like, the fact that they were interrupted every single time just seemed very juvenile, when you don't have your own house, or it's hard for you to find alone time because you're a teenager. But these two grown adults that have their own places, again, not like it needed to be full on romance, but like the fact that they wanted to have like a good night kiss in the car or alone time, and like the dog bothered them, or that bothered me so much.
Yeah.
Even the ghost stepped in like, no, I'm here.
Right.
Yeah. Time where he had spent the night and the parents were there, and the parents were like looking and like glaring at him. I'm like, this is her house. Like, this is her house.
Totally. Yeah. Right, exactly. Like, I know that was a minor thing, but that did feel a little bit, like I said, it was just juvenile for me. But everything else, again, with their relationship, I admired. I like that he wasn't trying to keep her from sleuthing. If anything, he was pushing more and contributing more, which goes back to that whole like community of sleuths rather than a singular person, which I thought was fun.
Yeah. Brie, was there anything that kind of prevented you from giving it that 5-star?
I really think it's a personal thing, but it was just, I get so tired of the bigger person. Like, when the bakery contest stuff happens, I'm like, tell this lady no. Like, it's a busy time, but I mean, obviously we wouldn't have a story if that wasn't there. So, but I'm like, I want to see somebody at some point just like stand up for themselves. Like, you're a business owner.
Yes.
And then like, I loved how the other businesses were like, obviously we can't handle this. Can you bake for us? And she kind of got in trouble for that. And I would have been like, what do you like? You clearly have an agenda if this is such a problem for you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because when I first got to that part where she was agreeing to bake the cookies for everybody else, um, I was ready to throw the book across the room because I'm like, that's cheating. But they, they addressed it in the book later on where somebody actually called her out. And I'm like, okay, I'm so glad that there was a sense of realism because um, while it's hard for me to believe that she would have all this extra time to bake these dozens of cookies for other people in addition to her own business, I I'm glad that somebody mentioned, like it's technically not fair for you to be baking cookie. Anyway, yeah, I
Think about it, the four people who ended up in the competition, I thought this was going to be more about the competition, like the British Bake Show type of thing.
me too.
It was like maybe 2 chapters.
Yeah.
And the thing about the competition is the 4 who ended up in it were the only 4 who actually baked their own cookies.
Yes.
Everybody else either bought their cookies.
Yeah.
There was someone who made the dog cookies, but you can't put that in a competition. And then, or they ordered them from her. So they were the only bakers, the 4 of them. So it wasn't really a competition.
Yeah, but I am glad that they panned it out that way because if somebody else got into the competition on her cookies, then I definitely would have had a problem with that because you didn't make your cookies.
Yeah.
You have a 50-50 chance of winning at that point if there's
totally.
I wonder if she would have like gone with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make them for them probably is what she would have done. I want to go back to the love interest. Yes. I hate love triangles. I can't stand them.
Yeah.
And a lot of cozy mysteries do them.
Yeah, and drag them on, which I'm glad, again, we have if there's going to be a relationship that was established in the first book, they're just bopping along in the second book. I haven't read the rest of the series, but I'm going to assume it's similar to this. But when it comes to, again, what I really love about cozies when it's the sleuths is when it's kind of a group or not just a single person. So in this one, we get not just the best friend, but like everybody else. I wish I would have seen why the friend was poking the bear at the boyfriend so much. Just because it seemed a little antagonistic, which is fine, because I mean, if it started off that way, but I don't know, it was really interesting to see how all of that panned out. And I could not, okay, so maybe you guys can answer this for me because I thought maybe I missed something or I forgot a detail, but the best friend, she doesn't live in the town, right? She was visiting. Do you remember?
I think she was visiting.
Why?
Maybe she doesn't have family and it was Christmas and she was just visiting her because she seemed very close with her parents.
Right.
Yeah, but she lives there. But no. She must live there because she mentioned in the first book that she started a relationship with that cop.
Right. So
that wasn't the first time she met the cop.
Okay. Yeah.
By the way.
Because at the end, she did say, because when the parents, spoiler, whatever, at the end, the parents say that they bought a house to spend more time in the same town. And then the friend says that she too will be spending more time there because her and the mom are in business together, which to me alluded to that she wasn't living there for so long. I don't know. That's one thing that kind of confused me because for a few chapters, I thought the friend was actually her sister.
So did I.
Because she was always there and right?
I went and I was like, is Kennedy the sister? And why is she British if she's the sister?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
I was so confused.
Yeah. No, okay. I'm glad it wasn't me. And again, maybe I skimmed that part and my brain read it, but it didn't absorb that information. It came together at the end, which is fine. But I wanted to point out really quick somebody right before the comment you posted, that one about the cozy mystery having a rolling pie as a murder weapon, which I did think was super. I mean, I hate to call a murder weapon charming, but
it kind of
charming.
The theme of the book, though. It was like cozy cookies, and he got murdered with the Christmas vintage rolling pin. It was amazing.
Yeah. I thought that was
hard.
Yeah, they're very hard. Yeah, I thought that was charming. I wanted to ask you, so I have a slight observation, and Samantha, I know that you've read already forgetting the name of it, Ellie Alexander's Bake Shop Mysteries.
Yes.
So for me, a thing that I liked about this, the relationship of her employees at her bake shop reminded me a lot of the employees and like the
Like
closeness.
Sterling and Adam. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was fun because they seemed, again, just kind of based on the description, they seem like young, college age, some of them have relationships, some of them don't. And I thought that was like another fun element of the series.
Yeah, I think I did notice some similarities. I try not to compare Ellie Alexander to too many of the cozies I read because she was the first one that I read. So I feel like inherently I'm always comparing them. But this one, if you liked Ellie Alexander, you would love this one because it's small town. It's a baking cozy. The dynamics of her family is also very similar. So yeah, I did agree with you with that.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head with that. If you do like the Ellie Alexander's book, read this one, and vice versa. If you've never read her Bake Shop mystery series, highly recommend because it's super well written. Though I do kind of want to point out, because I know for some people who aren't familiar with cozies, like if the subgenre or the topic is the same, like baking, they will make the assumption that every book is going to read the same, and that's not the case, because I've read other baking cozies that to me didn't stand up as much as this one for a few reasons, like the descriptions or the writing or the family and friend dynamic. And I think that the dynamic in this one is really, it's not annoying. Like I know sometimes family is one of the plot lines where it's just like a struggle with like not getting along with somebody or whatever. And like everyone was so harmonious in this, which just kind of added to that cozy element.
Yeah, I feel like we usually get some recipes. Did we get recipes in this?
We did. We did. Yes.
Oh, will you listen to the audiobook?
The audiobook.
No. Yes, there's recipes for the cookies that she baked for the bake shop. Yeah, so let me look. The lemon.
Oh, there's a lot of recipes. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of recipes.
And I just have to say, if you like bakery cozies, okay, the romance author Stephanie London has a new book coming called Emily George. And she's writing a cannabis bakery.
Yeah, I've heard about that. No, I've heard about that one. Yeah, which I got a trip out of because I'm like, well, let's see how far they take this one.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
The question is, will they have recipes at the end of that one?
I feel like I don't know. Really go there.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so the fun part. Did you guys guess the murderer?
No.
I know, Spencer, you don't like to guess. You like to just read.
Yeah, I just like to read too. I kind of forget that I'm supposed to be solving something. I'm like, I'm just here for the ride.
I didn't think it was the mom when it first was announced that it was the mom. I was like, it's too cliche that she was defending, but I didn't know it was him until they were alone, until the phone call between the two characters, and I was like, then I kind of sat up a little bit. I was like, wait, what? And then she mentioned it. I was like, the pin wasn't broken. There was nothing to it. Like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
So it kind of get me that excitement. Like, okay, there's somebody else, and the reasoning, because I was like, we're too close to the end. He just magically confessed and said everything. Like, it's just this easy. And I was like, there's no way. So I love the fact that that twist that they threw at you when you're in that conversation with the hairs in the back of your neck come up, and you're like, wait, there's more.
Yeah, because you kind of think, oh, it's over, and then it's like, oh wait, no, it's over. It's not over. I still have like 4
Christmas party. Like that's how it's gonna end.
It was anticlimactic.
Yeah, I was like, he confessed, and now we're gonna have a party. I'm like,
but you guys, when
when
it was Mrs. Claus, when they were like investigating her, what did y'all? I was like, I could actually see this because we don't really know anything about this.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it would have been interesting if it went further down that path, and it would have taken almost like a dark unsuspecting, which I would have been here for. Because again, everyone's like, oh, Mrs. Claus, it's so cheerful, it's so magical. And it's like, oh yes, but you know.
Yeah. So I did guess who it was.
Nice.
No, listen, I guessed who it was. So what ended up happening is he came to
she
me.
was like, this and this. I'm like, okay.
No. He came to me and asked me what were my theories, and I was like, well, it can't be Christmas Crazy Lady because she's our first suspect. It's never our first suspect.
Mhm.
And also she owns a store there. So like she's a part of the town, so it can't be her. And then I was like, I don't think it's Mrs. Claus because that's just sad. Like that is just sad.
No, she was like hoping like it wasn't her.
Yeah.
She was like, it can't be her. She came and saved the day. Like it can't.
Yeah. But then I ended up giving like my reasoning for Ginger and the husband. I think were my two reasons, and those
are her initial with like an hour and a half, 2 hours left in the book.
Yeah. And I gave all my reasonings for everyone, and then I stopped and I was like, wait, I forgot about the guy. And then I was like, no, it's the guy because he's the only person I didn't think of.
Yeah, but she came in with the whole
process of elimination.
Her synopsis of it though was funny because I had already finished the book, so she comes up, it's the guy Baker, and it's because he has interest in Jenny, and they saw them making out in the thing, and when he left, he cracked them over the head. That's why he did it. And I'm like, okay.
Somebody made Samantha a sleuth, okay? We need to
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you were right, but your rationale was a little
I didn't have the motive. I had the person, but I didn't have the motive. And he was like, at what point did you ever feel like they were like he was like jealous or romantically involved with the other Baker? I was like, I don't know.
She plucked that out of thin air. She's like, he likes her, they have a relationship, and we just don't know about it. I'm like,
but you know what? And so I feel like the motive was a little. It when you look back, it wasn't there. Which sometimes I feel, and this doesn't bother me as much because again, I don't read cozies for the whodunit aspect, but there weren't any clues. Like the fact that it was all happenstance. He lived his perfect. You know, he had gotten past it theoretically, and you built this business for yourself. And just. Because this guy coincidentally came, you hatched this plan. To me, that just it's always interesting when they make the character snap rather than like holding a grudge the whole time, just because it's a little hard to follow along, you know, the whole time to where you're like, oh yeah, I could see that. I couldn't see any of that. Like every other person had a motive, and he was just like, his mom would have had a better. I mean, I know that she was set up to be the one in the beginning, but if they would have left it at just that without that extra bit, which was exciting, I think it would have made more sense because she's klepto, she's clearly a helicopter mom. You know, at least that had clues before because she stole the cookies.
Well, that's why it was such a good twist.
And you were happy.
That's why it was such a good twist for me because you saw the potential. Like, mom was mad, her son had to go through all this trauma, and as a parent, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to prison for my kid.
Yeah.
So it was very plausible, very realistic, believable, and then the phone call, and you're like, oh. So it was such a good twist.
It was a good twist.
It got real at the end of this.
It did get real.
Like, he's not about to let his mama upstage.
Right.
And I give credit to the author though, that, or at least in the book, and obviously the description and the way they were and went through and how it was going in the book, and I can just picture her clamoring on the floor, dodging the rolling pin, hoping not to get hit. And it was such a dramatic interpretation that it was very. It made it really good part for that part. Right
yeah. I think the writing was done well. Like obviously you're gonna get your Christmas cozy descriptions, but like the other stuff, like the action scenes and like when she was locked in the closet and like even finding
It froze for a second, Spencer.
I muted her.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and then also the same thing to go with that same topic was the scene when they ran out of the apartment with the mom and the cookie snatchers. That whole the narrative and description as they're running in and fighting in the kitchen and dodging cookies. You know, the chaotic scene of it all was. I can just picture Cookie dashing and running through tables and pushing people out of the way.
No, it was
good.
funny because I was like, aren't these women like older? Like in their 70s? And they're running faster than like the two young bakers. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But it was funny. She was like the heels sinking in the grass and like, oh yeah. It was a good one. It was a good book for sure.
It was. I felt bad for the friends though, because it's like you help your friend who's a klepto, who clearly has issues, but she doesn't let you in on the full plan. And now it's like there's a murderer involved. Like, hold on, I was just supposed to distract. I didn't realize anybody was going to die. What is happening?
Yeah.
They definitely didn't know what they were getting themselves into because they were like, I'm just stealing cookies.
Yeah, definitely. For
But
sure.
there was a second where I was like, when we thought it was Mrs. Claus, I was like, did these cookie nappers even exist? Or like, was it her that set them up?
Yeah, because we knew nothing about them. They were not discussed. They weren't like the crazy lady's friends who are always clamoring around her. They came out of nowhere, and I was like, Mrs. Claus just made these people up. Like,
yeah, and she was like the only person who had seen them. Like none of the other, people in the restaurant had seen them, or even it's a packed bakery because they're giving out the cookies and no other customer saw like them take the cookies. So that was the only unbelievable thing for me, is how they just were able to, swipe 3 dozen cookies with nobody noticing.
Right.
One thing them out at the table. Like, that's my cookie. That's my plate. I'm like just the nerve to have it out.
Yeah, I
was like, how could you?
I forgot.
You know what? That's when her New Yorker came out, because she was like, nah, I cannot. What is happening right now? So,
I'm done. I can't believe you had it. And I was waiting for it. I was like, my cookies, my plate. That's it. Everything came off. It was awesome.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was interesting, and I'd love to know what you guys feel about this, if anything, was there was a lot of back and forth about whether or not I'm forgetting her name, but the woman who owns the Christmas store, whether she had an affair or not. And I feel like that side plot, it ended up going nowhere, but it was a lot of detail for something that ended up not going anywhere. Like,
it made you believe that she really did.
And it's like, why would you make everybody, and why would you sacrifice your own marriage? Lie to who lies to their husband about having an affair, not denying one, but like you never had one. And I don't know. I thought that was really over the top for her. And I think maybe that's when I thought she may have done it, because for you to have such a lie that will affect your marriage, you had to be covering up something even worse. I mean, clearly not, but still.
Your first suspect is not the suspect. I don't have that with Cozy Mystery because this is my first one. Mm-hmm. So when that whole plot twist was going and that narrative line was playing out, it really pushed me into thinking the crazy Christmas lady just has potential, because she wants to be known as the Queen of Christmas come hell or high water. So I was like, she's really pushing for this. And they kept playing the game and pushing it out in the relationship. And like you said, how do you go and not only vehemently deny it to your husband, but drag it out to where you made it seem to him that you did?
Yeah, like the judge and stuff like that, which is weird because like her whole the reason she was doing all this was for her family to come home, but like why would you like make it seem marriage, like you were having an affair if for Christmas? I never thought of that. Yeah, her story was weird. I thought it was mad disrespectful for our heroine to literally go to hit her husband's job and be like, are you having an affair? Like, if I was the wife, I would have been livid. Like, you went to my husband's job after I already spoken to you and just asked him if he had an affair.
If I was the husband, I would have been pissed too. Like, I know he had a quick moment, but he clearly talked.
He thought it happened though.
Well, the host told him it did.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. He truly believed it happened. He already, the host was egged it on.
Right.
He for sure thought his wife was already there. So for him,
I wouldn't want to talk to some strangers about it, And I think, like, you're coming up in my job, trying to ask me about what's happening in my personal relationship after coming in pretending you were here for something else. Like, I'm gonna need you to go. This is not it for me.
Yeah,
like
that was
place of
the only
business.
time I was on the side of the crazy Christmas lady. I think, what was her name? Felicity or something like that? I don't
Yes.
remember her name.
Thank you. I never remember the name.
And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe she just went up to this guy's job and having an affair. Like, if I was the wife, I would have been so pissed off.
But she did that to everybody. She went up to this lady's house who she didn't know who she was. Trying to ask, I'm a model. Look at me. Nope, you stole my cookies. Like, just randomly showed up.
Yeah.
She did to everybody. She even showed up to Mrs. Claus's house out of nowhere trying to find her. So
that's true. That's true. But yet, this was still like the less egregious form of sleuth. Like I've seen worse with
for sure
butting in their noses, you know. So that's why, like holistically, it's like, oh, it wasn't too bad. But again, I think it's because she had other like her friends and her boyfriend with her, so it kind of leveled out.
Our heroine wasn't dumb. I hate when our sleuths put themselves in a literal danger. Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna follow them out into the abandoned woods and like where it's just the two of us and I'm gonna confront them and tell absolutely no one.
You're giving her way too much credit. She literally chased after some cookie napper by herself and got locked up in a closet. She literally did exactly what you said.
But no, but you're right. She did the least sleuthing. Like I think I feel like her friend and her mom pushed it more. So I think that the author did a good job of making her a more realistic than others we would have seen, because she did kind of coincidentally stumble into it, and there wasn't that like combativeness with her and the cop where she's just like flat out ignoring everything. She did turn over the stuff that she had, or the information.
Going against the sergeants, the sergeant was completely, you are not to do this. Wow. I mean, she's like, okay.
The cops did not care though. Like they didn't try at all. Like
I was you know,
what if it was in cahoots? Jake was involved.
She was all involved in that.
You're right.
So he's gonna be like, my girl is
I'll tell you what.
Jake's losing his was not involved at all, and she's definitely had the posture to be like, don't do this, don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're going this way, girl. So
oh my gosh. That's so funny. Oh, there's gonna be a Halloween one next year.
Ooh.
Okay.
And then they're asking Dad if you'll read another cozy.
I definitely will. I don't see why I wouldn't. Honestly, I don't know if I'll pick it up on my own and read it on my own. I'll probably do where Samantha does another series and ask my take on it. I'll probably read it that way just so I can participate. I did enjoy the book. I like I said, the descriptions in it. I was driving, you know, and I have a stick shift, so I'm driving, and I'm like, wait, I got a shift, and what's going on? So, yeah, I love
putting yourself stuck in faith because you're so wrapped up in this.
Yeah, especially with the phone call at the end. Like I said, it got me because I'm sitting back, I'm in, you know, my gear, and then it comes up, and I'm like, wait, what? Wait, I got a shift. And then you start processing, and you're driving, and you focus. So yeah, no, but I'll definitely read another one if I'm involved or invited, for sure. I'll do it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go back and read the first one just to see more about the ghost, because that aspect was interesting to me.
Yeah, that is interesting. It piqued my interest, even though weirdly enough I've stayed away from cozies involving ghosts. I feel like it's my total prejudice. I know I need to just give one a try, but it's hard for me to imagine it still being grounded in somewhat reality if you've got a ghost helping, which is so silly. I know, because I clearly read like about vampires. Our last book was about vampires and knitting, but for some reason it's hard for me to wrap my head around like a ghost. I don't know.
I would be more inclined to read it because I'm more of the sci-fi mystery, spooky guy. So I wanted more of the ghost in this one. I thought for sure he was going to topple something over a piece of paper that showed her.
We talked a lot about him for him to not actually help out or guide her. Anyway. I think you're right. Yeah.
If you guys are looking for a good ghost one, I think the author is Juliet Blackwell. It's the If Walls Could Talk. It's like our home renovation series.
I have that one.
So the ghost is the person who died in the first book, and the ghost is basically telling her like, you need to figure out like who murdered me. I don't remember anything. And the ghost is the person who died, and then she's doing amateur sleuthing while she's like renovating this old Victorian house, and she sees people who had died, and she basically helps them like go to like the other side type
Well,
of
it's like what's that show that used to come on with Jennifer?
or
There it is. Yeah.
So that one I liked because it's like the same thing with the vampire one. It was the person who died that's the ghost. It's not like
not just a random person.
them, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
This person.
I think it's also because this is gonna sound so silly, you guys, but like ghosts frighten me. Like I feel like there's more that I could have in real life related to a ghost than like a vampire. So I just don't know if I would freak myself out with ghosts. I don't know. Maybe that's my challenge for next year is to read one with a ghost in it and like get over that.
Yeah. And then oh my god, isn't the Knitting Club a long series?
It is a long series.
Wow.
I mean, it was really good though. And I think we all said that we would continue the series. But that reminds me, so would you guys, I mean, I know you said that you're going to go back and read the first one, Samantha, but like, would you guys continue the series or read the first book? What about you, Brie?
Well, I kind of want to go back and read the first one. I just have a fear that maybe it's going to be like a lot of information dumping because we have a lot of questions and I'm like, I wonder if we got all these answers in the first book. But now that we know there's going to be a Halloween one, like I really want to read that.
I'll read that one. But I'm because since I had the accident of having to restart the book and went to the beginning, I was like, there's blood. Like now I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Wait, there's the murder happened at the bake shop and now blood everywhere. Now I definitely want to know what happened. So
yeah, you were sucked in. That was a good way to accidentally get into the first book. Yeah.
Intentionally, like I want you to read more here.
I don't know if I will go back and read the first one, just because I don't know like if it would keep my interest. But going forward, I definitely want to read. Because like you, Brie, I don't know at that point if it'll just be info dump. Like I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the main character having to defend herself plus the relationships, which I'm like, okay, I already know how those are now, so I don't know,
maybe you don't need
to. But I really enjoyed it and I would definitely continue the series.
On that note, what are you guys reading now? Bree, what are you reading now? Doesn't have to be a cozy, could be anything.
I'm like, it's
what
not,
aren't you reading, Bree?
My reading has really slowed down. Okay,
30 books.
Christmas movie time. I'm reading it's the first, I think, Harlequin Presents by Marcella Bell, and I'm
like ever.
Yes, so I'm reading that right now, and I do have an audiobook, How the Grump Saved Christmas by Claire Kingsley. So those are the two.
Jess and Lacey read that one for their book club, if I'm not mistaken. I heard it was good. Yeah.
Are you reading your first presents for your podcast? I was just listening to it the last few days, catching up. So I'm
reading it to talk with Kelly from the podcast Boobies and Newbies.
Oh, okay. Okay. So plug your podcast really quick so people know what I'm talking about.
I don't plug things very well. I co-host the Categorically Romance podcast with my friend Erin.
It's amazing. It's all about category romance, Harlequin, Mills and Boons. Brie is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all of those. And you guys have like author discussions and like editors come on the show. It's fantastic.
They're great. They're
great.
When you were first talking about, or when I first heard you talking about them, I went on eBay and got like tons, and now I have them like down.
Yes.
Like, look at her.
Yeah, God, I did too.
I have to stay away from eBay because
those book lots those will get you. I had to I still have some, but like 2/3 of the book lots that I bought on a whim, I'm like, I have to donate these when we moved because I'm just like, this can really be problematic.
Oh, yeah. When you move, you realize like, oh my goodness, how am I going to take all this stuff with me?
No, I know.
But reading this made me realize, like, I really do want to read more cozies. I don't know why. Like, you mentioned the Juliet Blackwell. That's one of the series that I have not unhauled. I still have all of the books. I have another ghost one, I think, called by like E.J. Cunningham or something. Another ghost one that I've hauled digitally. I think I associate reading cozies with like September and October. Yeah. And that's it, you know? And I'm like, I want
that's fair. Yeah, it's I mean, obviously there are cozies for every season, every subject, but the cozy time of year, like you said, which tends to be fall going into Christmas, I feel is when they really hit their sweet spot. So like a Christmas cozy to me will just hit so much more different than just like a random spring day, you know, which could be just as good, but there's just something about being inside and all snuggled up.
Yeah. Well, like from the 4 that we picked, because we've had a whole year of this now. Well, did we start in spring or did we start in summer?
We started in spring, so this was our
this is our 3rd one. So this one was my favorite out of all the ones we picked because like it felt very seasonal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. So I'm currently in between. I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go yet. So I've got 2, since I'm now feeling Christmassy, 2 books that I'm kind of battling between. Tessa Bailey's Window Shopping, which it's a romance, and it was on my TBR last year, and I forgot about it because by the time I remembered, it was past Christmas, and I don't read Christmas books past Christmas. This is my personal. And then the other one, I actually just downloaded it. The 12 Sleighs of Christmas by Jacqueline Frost. And it's the first book in a Christmas tree mystery series. So if any of you haven't read it and you want to continue like a Christmas cozy, I haven't read far, but like the first chapter alone, it is like everything Christmas you could want, with like hot chocolate and Christmas trees and the balsam smell. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, this could be a really good one.
She's a busy woman. She's
Yeah, our two.
Wow.
Your TBRs are your guys.
You didn't know what the acronym stood for when I first.
She's always like, oh my God, my TBR reading list. And I'm like, why do you have a reading list? Why not get a book, read it, and then move forward? And I'm like, I'm noticing that all the
Dad.
You have to give Dad like a 2023 reading project. I love it.
Because, well, you know, like we have all these books in our shelves and, you know, we don't read them all. He's not like that. He buys a book, he reads it, and then he gives it away. Like he's done.
I wish I could be like that. So let me tell you, I always describe it for my like non-bookish friends. There are 3 subcategories when it comes to books that are all separate hobbies: reading books, buying books, and talking about books. And like reading a book and buying a book are 2 totally separate things.
Yeah.
That's what all these books are behind me.
Look, I'm the one that moved these in here, so I know. It's like she's already talking about putting shelves over one side and on the other, and I'm like, hey.
Serotonin high you get from all 3 of those, and it's the sweet trifecta.
Yeah, but Jacqueline is like she writes as Jacqueline Frost, Bree Baker.
She's Bree Baker?
And she's Julianne Lindsay with
Julianne Lindsay? Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
I want to get that Santa Claus series, the Christmas tree series.
Yeah. I'll send you let me put the title of it in the notes. But I did not know that. And I know that all of those series that she does are pretty substantial. So yeah, she's a hardworking woman here.
Yeah, I love
favorite like theme of cozies. Is bakery y'all's favorite or no?
Baking, books, and witches. Those are my 3s. Favorite. I love witch cozy
series.
Witch cozies are fun. I like, that's a tough one. I like bookish cozies. And the other ones I like witchy cozies, but it's been a while. And I guess baking cozies, for me, it's less about the genre or the theme and just the series. Like I can get my absolute favorite, I mean, you guys already know this because I talk about it all the time, but the Meg Langslow series is like my favorite cozy mystery series. And it's just a regular woman. Like technically, if you had to put it into a category, she is a blacksmith, but it has nothing to do with her being a blacksmith. It's really just like her kooky family and just murders that she comes across.
Do you have a favorite theme, Brie?
I think I love the bookshop ones. Amanda Flower had one that didn't last very long. It was like the magical bookshop.
Oh my God. I read the first book.
I love it. And I think it only has like 4 books. And I don't
really it was fantastic. Yeah. I'm kind of bummed to hear that because I wanted to pick it back up, but now that I know it's only 4. That's
The
kind of
bookish
sad.
one that I like, which one is it called? You gave it to me, Spencer. It's a brown book. It's like she's a book who restores old books.
Oh, yes, I love that series too. The
Homicide hardcover by Kate Carlisle.
yes,
Kate
Kate Carlisle's
Oh,
it's called the Bibliophile Mystery Series. That's a long running series too. That's a really good one.
I don't have a cozy series favorite because I have my first
Well,
one.
what's your favorite genre then?
Well, it's the Women's Murder Club. That's one of the first books I ever picked up. It's
By James Patterson?
by James Patterson. I
Yeah.
picked it halfway through, and then I ended up starting it from the beginning. And it,
It's a good
at
one.
first I was like, it was the relationship that built up, but I love the fact that they make them strong women
Yeah.
and smart and intellectual and investigating, the detective, the coroner, and they go through, and it's an amazing series if you like
It is.
murder and intense. It's a really good series. There's a lot of books in them.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite series of all time that I've read. I mentioned it in her Vlogmas video, but I began reading in the train in New York City. I had to go from Brooklyn, where I live, to my father's job in the Bronx. And it's an hour and so train ride. And I don't know if you know, but in New York City, the train is a rolling library. You read a book, you leave the book on the train, and if you see another one, you grab it, you read the cover, read it or not, and then if you don't want it, you leave it there and you continue on. And that's how I found it. And I got way into the series when I grabbed the first book, but it spurred the moment of me in high school to read and get involved and going through. So that's my favorite series.
That's I remember coming across that series in my library, and I actually got the audiobooks. I'm not sure if you have listened to the audiobooks, but for me, the way that I pick up a book first is usually how I'll continue the series, and the audiobooks are so well done. But I can see how you like the cozy, just because I feel like even though the woman is a cop, she's not an amateur. The fact that her friends help out and they're not cops, because isn't one of them like a coroner and stuff like that?
One's an attorney, her friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of checks a lot of similar boxes. Have you read his NYPD Red series?
I have not.
Patterson? Okay. You might enjoy that one too. I mean, obviously they're crime solving, but it's a cop, the partners and their exes, the either ex fiance or ex boyfriend and girlfriend, and they solve crimes as a special unit called the Red series, the color red, and it's all high profile celebrity cases. So like if there's a special event in town, or like one of them I read, there was like this bomb that they had to find. And anyway, that's not the point. I could keep talking about this forever, but it's a really good series as well. They just came out with a 7th one. And if you like James Patterson's snappy writing, I feel like it's quintessential Patterson in this case.
Nice. I'm definitely
so I feel like every month we need a dad wrap up of like
Yes, you're very popular on Books in this channel. Trust me.
I joke with her. I tell my fans, I say hello.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, we always are wondering about what's your dad reading, because you give such good insight and feedback. Whereas I feel like if we love a book, it's just like, oh, I love it. I don't know why, but I just love it.
Yeah. I'm a vibe person, but he like remembers the smallest details, and I'm like, I forgot.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, so we need a wrap up at the end of every month.
Yeah.
What am I reading right now? Oh, I'm reading Anastasia, or I just finished it.
Because you have your live show.
Yeah, for the live show on Jessica's channel in a couple hours.
She barely made it by the hair of her chin chin.
I finished it at like 2:00 in the morning.
She was reading.
Though. At least you're not like
an ebook.
Oh, she ebooked it. Okay, the other one.
That's
I walked in and all I heard was chipmunks under her bed. I was like, "What are you doing?"
That was this
book.
Yeah. The fact that you finished at 2 a.m. though is an accomplishment. It's not like it's like, okay, guys, I have to go now because I still have 100 pages to read before the next live show.
I was planning to finish because I won't finish tomorrow. It was good. I think it was very long. It was like it's a very fantasy heavy book, but it was good. I liked it. Nice. I gave it 5 stars. But that's Sophie Lark, so that's a easy 5 stars for me.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're right on the dot. This was so much fun, you guys. Thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me.
I'm glad that we enjoyed the book because it always makes the conversation interesting. I mean, the last time we were on the fence, it was interesting too, but like there's more to gush about this time around.
Yes, it was definitely our best pick so far. Our next pick will be the springtime, so probably like March, April, which we'll have announced on one of our social medias. So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys.
If you guys do the pumpkin one, I'll be a part of that.
We'll do
Okay. Well, you might have to do the pumpkin for that one.
Maybe it's a little more spookier.
Yeah,
We'll
probably. All right, guys. Bye.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Holidays.
Let's end this podcast. Still live.